that he's pursuing a 100% tariff on movies produced outside of the United States, calling runaway production a, quote, national security threat.
Renegade Online.
Donald Trump says that he's pursuing, according to Reuters and other places, and I'm assuming this may have originated from a tweet or a Truth Social post, I guess, really from Trump, that he's pursuing a 100% tariff on movies produced outside of the United States, calling runaway production a, quote, national security threat. Okay. I'm hoping that this article contains a copy of whatever Truth Post or wherever this came from.
It's in here, Valiant. It's in here.
Okay, good. All right, because we want to put things in context.
This is coming out the week of Disney's earning call.
Right, exactly. And which makes this even more fun. And this is why I love this all the more. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this up front because I want people to really understand this. And speaking as somebody who has worked in the financial industry as a financial planner, a stockbroker, an insurance guy, financial advisor for over 20 years, more than 2 decades, Trump talks a lot of good game for this kind of stuff. Does Trump actually want to slam tariffs on everything out there? No. And people that understand how he thinks and works have known this. This same thing back in 2016 through 2020 with his first term. This is about getting people to the table to negotiate. Right? We don't want this to keep going overseas. I don't want to keep putting tariffs. I don't want to use tariffs on things. But if it gets you to the table to have a serious conversation and move the needle, then that's exactly what Donald Trump is going to do. We talked about this weeks ago when it came to, the first country to make the phone call was Vietnam. Remember a few weeks ago, I talked about how that day, like right after Trump announced the tariffs, Lululemon and Nike got absolutely obliterated. They were down over 10% that Friday afternoon. And by 1 or 2 o'clock Eastern, and the news had broken that the Vietnamese president, or whatever they call the president in Vietnam, probably is president, but then he'd reached out to Trump and say that he wanted to work with Trump, that he loves Trump. We're going to try to negotiate to get our tariffs down on U.S. goods down to 0%. And Lululemon and Nike went from -10 to +10, a massive intraday swing like that in 5 minutes. That's what this is about. This is about getting people to the negotiating table. But let's see exactly what this entails, because the devil are in the details, right? Updated with additional comments from the president, which makes this even more fun. Donald Trump said that he is ordering the United States Trade Representative and the Commerce Department to begin the process to impose a 100% tariff on imports of movies that are produced in, quote, foreign lands. Okay. So right there, and again, I'm gonna go through this article as if this were the casual social media viewer, right? Because what do people do, Jonas? What do they read?
They read the headline and then they just go ahead and comment.
That's it. We're not going to do that. But we're going to pretend like we're going to be those people that's all they look at, right? So right there, that there is some vagary there. Are we talking about are we talking about a studio that is based in a foreign country that has a foreign distributor, like a Bollywood movie, versus Universal, who owns Illumination? And Illumination still bases their physical production for the animated features in Paris, right? There's a difference here. What are we talking about, right? Because by all accounts, when we release Super Mario Brothers, the movie, which was made by Illumination, right? We consider that an American picture that was a domestically American release, even though it was physically animated over in France. And that's a subsidiary of Universal they own. So we got to see what they mean here. Calling a runaway production, quote, a national security threat, Trump's comments follow reports that one of his special ambassadors, quote unquote, according to this article, to Hollywood, John Voight's pencil. Seinfeld reference. See how many people out there got it. I know who the smartest people in the audience are if you got that joke. It's John Voight's car. Calling a runaway production a national security threat, Trump comments follows reports that one of his special ambassadors to Hollywood, John Voight, was devising a plan to save the entertainment industry. Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "The movie industry is dying in America, a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many other areas in the USA are being devastated." And I can tell you right now, as somebody who's from Louisiana, I mean, the Hollywood film industry, the film industry in general, has become a rather decent part of the Louisiana economy over the last 20 years or so, because of the film tax credits that Louisiana put together for that. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. Okay, so let's stop right there, gentlemen. That is the Truth Social post. Again, I feel like we're absent a lot of context. There's a number of ways I can interpret this. We don't even know if any details have been put to this yet by his cabinet. What just based on this post, guys, what's the reaction?
This is earth-shattering for the way that filmmaking has been handled over the last few years. And this, by the way, is something that California should be excited about, because if they aren't making movies in London or Tunisia, or, I'm thinking about Star Wars, of course, that's on the brain. But you think about how often we have been able to find out what's going on with a production's budgets by looking at UK tax returns. This is something that the California media is going to be in New York as well, are going to be in an unusual place, because this benefits them, because this pulls all of the production a lot closer to them, makes it a lot cheaper, but it's also Trump. So it's quote unquote bad here. I don't know how this is all going to work, because they have to make it to where, like ILM in America, I don't know what that means as far as the studio in London versus the studio in America. If you have a remote worker in London and he's reporting to someone in America, or does the final product, I don't know. This is going to have to be very carefully worded, and the fact pattern is going to have to be so specific in order to be effective, unless he's just outright just saying you have to make the whole thing in the United States. I don't think he can do that, by the way, that last one.
This is confusing to me. Because this really, I'm trying to sit here and look at, like, okay, you could say they're produced, but they're, the way the movie industry works, right? We've covered this for a while. We have done this. Forbes has done this. Our great friend Caroline Reed over at Forbes magazine. You set up a production LLC, an entity, or a limited, as they call it in the UK. PIM Productions 3 Limited UK, which is limited, it's the same thing as basically an LLC here in the United States. That LLC is still a wholly owned subsidiary of an American counterpart LLC or something of the nature over here, which is then in turn itself owned by Walt Disney or Universal or Paramount or Sony or
if we're
go on
following
down the list.
Blue Stockings, the production company for The Acolyte, is fully owned by LFL Productions, which is a UK entity, which is fully owned by Lucasfilm, the US entity.
You're right. Exactly.
So here's one way it could work. And I don't know, because we don't have the details yet. But they might have to itemize exactly what was done domestically versus internationally, and then the percentage of the work that was done. However you would tabulate that, I don't know what.
Which they already do. They already have to do that. They already have to do that.
That percentage could be subject to the 100% tariff, whatever the value of that would be for the total returns.
Well, and this is the point. This entire, and I get it. Trump, he posted something on social media He's the president of the United States. God bless him. This is how the reaction goes, especially when you literally zero in a laser-focused nuclear bullseye onto Hollywood, which is exactly what this is. You're going to get these kind of reactions from Deadline, Variety, THR, and whatever other freak parade that are out there in the bowl of granola that is California. So I get it. But the point is, and this is what I'm trying to get across. We're going to keep going through the article here because I want to see more about what this is. But my point is that post from Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States of America, is like most of them. They're a little on the vague side, right? I can't tell from this post if he's talking about productions that are, what are we talking about? We said they're made overseas. I mean, there are Hollywood companies that for years, think about this. This is what I'm trying to get across. You need to go shoot on location, right? You're Mission Impossible. You're Paramount. You shoot in 12 different foreign countries every film you do, right? Because that's the scale of the film. Are we going to tax? Is he talking about putting a tariff on shooting for... Again, we know how this usually goes. Like Trump will put this out. Then the people that he needs in his cabinet to do the detail work on this get together and go, well, sir, you're going to need to make exceptions for this, that, and the other thing, right? We've already seen this. Think about this is my point. Think about the tech industry, guys, right? Think about the chip makers. Think about Apple. Think about NVIDIA. Think about what did Trump do after the whole 140% tariffs on China and everything coming in from there? Well, Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, blah, blah, they're completely reliant on China and TSMC for assembly and things like this. So they started moving products. Instead of coming out of China, they started shipping things into Vietnam and then shipping them out of Vietnam or Thailand or something like this. But then there was an exemption made. There was an exemption made for first-generation microchips, for NVIDIA, for Apple, stuff like this. There were all these kind of exceptions. But so this is really vague to me. And yeah.
Let me tell you the pragmatic effect, I think. And you guys tell me if I'm wrong. The pragmatic effect is whatever the issues with vagity might be, tomorrow morning, studio execs are going to gather their board together and gather their consultants together, and they're going to say, what movie is going into production at Pinewood next month? And they're going to say, yada, yada. And they're going to say, hold it. And they're going to say, how long? And they're going to say, till we've, X amount of time. And then if that doesn't work, we've got to move it or we got to cancel it altogether because they can't take 100% tariff. That is an existential threat to the ability to make back any money on the movie. The higher the budget, by the way. So this really affects Marvel and Star Wars and those sorts of things.
Pardon my French, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Disney would be absolutely proper in this case. I mean, there's no way around this. I mean, they do all their stuff over there at Pinewood and Shinfield, especially for Marvel and Star Wars.
Right.
I mean, it's game over.
Right. Absent of any actual policy put into place, this has a chilling effect in all of those, in all of the location scouting, all of the planning of financing for movies.
Right.
This is something where even if he hasn't actually done it, he has scared the tar out of them. I'll go the other direction as you on this Valiant.
Every single thing right now, if there's any possibility of shooting it in California or Georgia or Texas, that's happening now. Like there's no possible way. You can't in good financial conscience put a movie in any other location right now. And you have to move, like if you run into capacity issues, this is the next thing that'll happen. You'll have capacity issues because Georgia is already essentially at capacity. California is at something like 60% capacity, which it has plenty of room. But if you start to reach capacity, you would have to move the productions of streaming shows as much as you could overseas so that you can shoot the theatrical releases and the film productions domestically. And because you don't know the details, you're scared to death, so you can't put them anywhere else.
No, and I'm telling y'all right now, we're going to go back to the article. There's more to this. In the morning, if this tweet, because Sunday nights, it's not like a weekday. This is after hours and pre-market. We're not pre-market yet.
Where are they shooting Doomsday?
Weekends, it's
The
all
UK,
that's all,
the UK.
that's all
They've
the
already
UK.
they've
It's
already
all
filed in
the
the UK.
UK. It's all the UK.
Okay.
Look, dude, that's particularly screwed because again, I still say I have no idea on earth how that movie Doomsday is supposed to come out in 12 months, almost to the day from right now.
And the script's not done. But here's the fun of it, right? What Trump just did, folks, Doomsday is delayed. That's not an official announcement from Disney.
No, that's going to be no. I'm there. Well, they
Might
could
have saved
potentially.
it. Might have saved the movie.
Hang on.
Yeah.
You could be right, but you also could be wrong because it depends on when they take it, and we'll get to that. But my point is with this, okay, it's depending on when they claim the expense. Because remember, movies work different. And I'll walk people through that in a second.
But do you pause it?
That article?
Do you pause it though tomorrow, Valiant? If you're Iger, if you're Feige, do you say, hold it, guys, hold it?
No, you can't.
Okay.
You can't because you've already got too much sunk in pre-production cost. It's all over there. You look at it and you go, well, wait, we've already got $150 million in the ground right now over there. You cannot just hit the pause button because something might happen.
Right. That entire movie hinges on actor availability. So as people who follow the news, so let's just point out what Trump did as well here. This is not when Hollywood and especially Disney want to hide something that they have to announce. They put it out at 4 p.m. on a Friday.
Right.
This has been put out at, let's say, 9 p.m. on a Sunday. So Trump wants to own Monday and Tuesday of this week.
And the Monday morning stock opening.
Yeah, he
Wall Street
does. And I look in on the other side of this, and again, I'm going to play devil's advocate, is that you guys may be perfectly right, and that would make a lot of sense in my world. That would make a lot of sense in anybody's marketing world. There's also the Donald Trump world, where Donald Trump doesn't give a shit, and he just tweets things when he wants to tweet them. And part of that, I think, might be, he's looking at box office. He's looking at this. He's looking at Hollywood productions. There's been a lot of stories recently about the amount of money that Hollywood spends, how it's going overseas. For all we know, Caroline Reed at Forbes magazine, some of her recent pieces about Jurassic World and some of the other Disney stuff that's out there, Trump could have seen that. A guy like Donald Trump, I promise you, reads Forbes. Promise you. He's a Forbes magazine guy, or at least traditionally probably is, because he's a business guy, and business guys like him read the financial trades. He probably even still reads some stuff from Bloomberg, even though he probably hates Michael Bloomberg. He probably reads IBD. He probably even looks at Reuters. So the point is that people like Caroline Reed that have been pounding on this. I mean, I'd love to say, yeah, maybe Donald Trump has been watching Valiant Renegade out there. I mean, I'm not that stupid, but the point is that he probably is reading something like Forbes, and things like that might catch his attention. And when he looks at Hollywood and he talks to, and when he talks to people in Hollywood, and you can see here in the report here, where his, one of his people are, let me get the thing back up real quick, is John Voight, right? John Voight is the guy that he's leaning on. Here we go. Got to get back over to that one. I had the wrong one up. But here we go. John Voight has met with various guild officials like the Producers Guild, the PGA, SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Guild, WGA Writers Guild, right? So he's probably hearing this from them that more and more stuff is being sent to studios or counterparts or subsidiaries overseas, although we don't have a lot of details yet about what this tariff is going to impact. But yeah,
guys, I've got breaking news right now. I've got the video. Let's go to Trump. He's talking about it.
Oh, do it. You got the audio shared? Go for it.
You guys get the audio on that?
A little bit.
The movie tariffs. Yeah, the movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movies, the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week, and we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have
yep, he's right.
Some in there, yeah.
If they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a threat to our country in a sense. And it's been a very popular thing. I can tell you one thing, movie makers love it. Mr. President.
All
right,
guys,
hold it right there.
We've also got a super chat real quick. I just got to put this. This is too insightful for us not to discuss it as well.
Well,
I just want to put that up and say that's an interesting super chat. We see it.
It is.
But go ahead, Val.
Okay, no, I was going to say, let me say this. So what Trump is saying, I mean, I hear what he's saying. I love the fact that he took the opportunity to take a dig at, and I think completely righteously, at the grand idiot Gavin Newsom, Gavin Screwsome, because he loves to screw California, the governor of California, because he's totally right. One of the reasons, and of course, Hollywood won't admit it because they're very sociopolitically aligned, of course, with Gavin Newsom. They are extreme leftists. They're extreme Marxists. They're socialists. They're at the point. Hollywood is at the point now where, 20 years ago, you wouldn't get these people to admit that they loved socialism. Now they use the word socialism like it's candy. They don't care. 5 years from now, these people will be openly admitting that they are flat out communists. They are. They're lunatics, right? They can't tell the difference between boys and girls and all this kind of stuff. But the problem is that they sociopolitically align with Gavin Newsom while at the same time, and this is the most bizarre dichotomy that probably exists out there in terms of the duality of Hollywood talent, quote unquote talent, right? They love Gavin Newsom, but they freaking hate Gavin Newsom at the same time because Newsom is the guy, whether they admit it openly or not, and they won't openly admit it. Gavin Newsom is largely responsible for continuing to drive California's government and economic climate into the shitter. I mean, and that is a fact, right? The reason that everybody wants to leave California, that wants to get out of California, the reason that all of these Hollywood studios, even though they don't have the cojones to uproot from Los Angeles and Burbank, and I get it because from the standpoint of actual economic, real property, capital investment, it is pretty hard for them to uproot and move completely out from a physical standpoint. But they're all doing the next best thing. They're taking their productions. Yeah, hey, we all still live in Los Angeles. We all still live in Hollywood. We all still live in Burbank. And all of our little starlets and Instagram stars and all the social media personalities that we think are going to bring people into the movies, they all still want to live here in LA. But when it comes to actually doing the work, when it comes to actually, hey, let's actually shoot a movie or a TV show, we're going to send you to Vancouver. We're going to send you to the UK. We're going to send you overseas. We're going to send you out of here because when we go to those countries, two things happen. And this is key for everybody to realize out there. And I'm going to tell you right now what Trump is doing. My opinion, breaking news here. This is less about the Hollywood studios. This is more about crushing Gavin Newsom in California. Here's why. There's two reasons they go overseas. Number one is because they have lucrative film tax credits. Oh, but Valiant. California has film tax credits. Georgia has film tax credits. The state, not the country in the Eastern Europe bloc. Louisiana has film tax credits. Yes, everybody has film tax credits. The ones in the UK tend to be particularly lucrative, right? Of operations already well established over there with their own business entities like Disney, like Universal, like Sony, like Paramount, like Warner Brothers. They all have a very physically housed UK entity, but instead of building studios over there, no problem. This is why they built Pinewood. This is why they built Shinfield. This is why they go over there. Other side of this, and this is what's key, it's not just the film tax credits, right? Because you can go do that in California. You can go do that in Georgia. Why do they go over there? Unions. Labor.
Well, that's why they did Vancouver. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And this is it. This is the problem. And this is going to, they're not going to say the quiet part, I think, for now out loud. But I promise you, if John Voight and some of these other guys are involved in there, one of the things they're looking at is they're gonna talk to Trump. What Well, Mr. President, one of the reasons that the Hollywood studios are doing this, and you have to understand, is the fact that the cost of production and labor in America has become so insane, right? Well, we've got to pay a grip, the equivalent of $100,000 a year or whatever, to be a grip or to be a gaffer or something like this, where you've got these guys that are making $60, $70, $80, $100,000 a year. Why? Well, because, California is a complete dog's hole, and it costs 5 times more to live in California than everywhere else in the country. That's the issue. It's the California economy, and unfortunately, that's where the largesse of Hollywood is based. And you're at the point now where even the studios who would love to uproot and vamoose out somewhere else, they don't want to physically make that move, but they can send their productions out of country. And it's cheaper for them to take their $20 million actors, right? Or their $80 million actor, Robert Downey Jr., right? For one movie or whatever the hell he's getting paid for Doomsday, which is probably about $80 million. I'm not even making that up. It's probably at least that. And put him on a plane and pay for him to live in a private castle in Cheltenham, in the country, 30 miles from Pinewood Studios for 6 months while they film Doomsday and cater him with lobster and caviar, then have him sit here in California and drive home every night. Because that's what's better, because that's what Gavin Newsom has built. And that's why Donald Trump's made the comment he did about the stupid governor over there, I think.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.